Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today we have the Topping E50 in for review. Now what makes this DAC very special is that it's a very small, compact DAC. Like it literally takes up not that much space on your desk, and it's actually fully balanced inside. It comes in a price at $270, so it's a really good price for a balanced DAC, and I think with that size and the small form factor, it makes it a little bit unique on the market, and it kind of caters to a certain crowd, right? This also comes with a Saber DAC, and I'm a pretty big fan of Saber DACs because my own DAC that I use as daily driver is my SMSL SU-9, uses a top of the line Saber DAC. So those are, I know they're pretty good. Now, I also want to thank Apos Audio for sending this out for a review. They aren't paying, sponsoring me at all, but I do have affiliate links below that if you buy from those links, it do help support my channel. So if you could do that, that would be helpful for me to grow and kind of get more products to review for you guys in the future. As always, please like and subscribe down below. It really helps my videos out. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark so I can be an official YouTuber. So any help would be appreciated. Now, let's talk about the build and the functionality, and then we'll talk about the sound. So let's talk about the build of the Topping E50. So it has an aluminum chassis, so it's nicely built, nicely machined. It looks really good. It has MQA as from the sticker. It also has a high-res sticker, in case you didn't know. And then let's talk about the ports on the back first. So from the back, we have a TRS balance. So they actually have two balance ports, but they use a kind of more specialized balance connector because this has a really small form factor. So this saves space. So you got to buy special cables for these. Then you have your standard RCA, and then you got your optical, your USB, and then your power. So the accessories it comes with is we get a USB to the power adapter. So you plug it into your PC or a USB port, and then it could power this directly. You also get a USB-B to USB-A, so this is what connects to your device so you can play your music from through USB. And then you also get a controller. So this is a Topping controller. The buttons are pretty self-explanatory. They also have a manual, but essentially you have your power, you have a mute, you can change your outputs, and then this is not really active. You can change the filters over here. I didn't hear much difference from the filters, but you can definitely change the filters if you like. Then this is a useless button as well. And then this changes kind of the auto features of turning on and off. And this changes the brightness. And a very interesting thing to note is the controller actually doesn't have access to all of the functions, because you can actually change this mode to preamp mode, but you have to do it through the menus of the DAC. So I'll show you guys how that is done and talk about the menus and buttons from the DAC. All right, so let's talk about some of the functions. So it kind of has a multi-touch function in the front, and the display tells you what is in it. So mine is in USB mode, going through the balance, and in preamp mode, right? So if you push this button, it will change the USB input to optical, to coaxial, and back. If you double press this, it actually changes it from single-ended in balance to single-ended to balance mode, right? So you can choose the different inputs that you want. The outputs that you want. Use this as a preamp, right? So then I can use it through my controller, and then I could adjust the volume, right? So if you want to use this to adjust the volume to your amplifier, you can, but you have to turn this function on through the menu system. So you can actually access the menu system of the DAC. So you do it by holding down the button to get to the menu system for 3 seconds. And then from here, you can hold it down again. And now you access the menu system. So the F1 is a different filter. So if I push the button once, I'll cycle through the different options I want. So you can go through all these. They define all this in the menu, but essentially this M-P is what changes it to preamp or not. So if I double press this button, it will change the setting. But if I single press, it'll just cycle through the settings, right? So then double press to change the filter 2, filter 3, filter 1. So you can actually use this DAC without ever touching the controller if you wish. And the DAC actually has a little bit more functionality through the touch than the actual controls. And then you can just exit the menu by just holding it. And then, yeah, and you just turn it back on and you're ready to go, really. And yeah, now it's back. I turned off the preamp mode, so now it's outputting its full entire power. And it just shows you kind of, it's in 44 PCM, so yeah. So another thing I want to mention is that you could use this USB to their power adapter to power the device, but you can also get a dedicated power supply. So this is the i5 iPower, and it's like $50, but it's supposed to have lower noise and give you better performance. So I actually use this to test to kind of try to maximize this DAC to get the most sound quality out of it. So yeah, this, you can use something like this to power your device because it doesn't have a built-in power supply like more expensive DACs do. So this is the balance cable that I bought to use for the TRS slot into XLR. This cable comes in around $10 and you need two of them, so it costs you about $20. Or else you have to buy if you have a matching amp with this, the L50, they have a cable that I think they sell for like $50 that goes from TRS to TRS that Topping sells themselves. So you can also get that cable if you're linking it to their own device. But yeah, it just fits in here. And then I plug this into the back of my Topping A90, and yeah. I'll leave a link in the description for these cables so you guys can find them to use with your devices. So to test the devices, I use my HE6SC through the Topping A90 amplifier, and then through the balance port of this to test how it sounded. And then I compared it to my Apple dongle. So I actually linked the Apple dongle. So I plugged the Apple dongle through RCA into the A90 to kind of give a baseline comparison. And then I also connected my SMSL SU-9 DAC. I connected this through balance as well into the A90 and kind of swapped between these to do my listening test as well. So the question really is, how does a Topping E50 sound, right? So when it comes to sound, I feel like it's easier to compare it to other things. So I always like to use the Apple dongle as like the baseline. It's kind of like $6. It's kind of like what, if you had a normal device, this is what it would sound like, right? And then over here we have the SMSL SU-9. It's another balanced DAC, but it's much more expensive at $460. So kind of represent the more expensive DAC in this comparison. So the first thing is, compared to the Apple dongle, when I hook it up to the A90, it definitely sounds very just dull, unrefined, and congested and compressed. Those are the words I would use to describe how the Apple dongle sounds. It's kind of crazy how much a difference that swapping this DAC makes. Like going to the E50, you kind of hear the bass hits harder and more distinct and more defined, and it kind of digs a little deeper. And then you also hear like the difference between the separation between like the vocalist and like the bass line. They're kind of like more separated, more defined as well. Everything is just like clear. It's like you kind of like go through this like foggy image and then you kind of just broke through it, and everything literally becomes more clear and more distinct. And the resolution difference is actually staggering. Topping E50 has a kind of more bigger and more distinct image. Like things are not as like inside, but they're kind of more around you, and you kind of pick out each of the elements a lot more as well. And then the one thing I also notice a lot is like when it comes to kind of like the upper like treble frequencies, E50 is definitely able to kind of present those with more detail compared to the Apple dongle. And so overall, it is quite an impressive improvement with the Topping E50. When you move to a more expensive DAC, so the SMSL SU-9, it kind of gets a similar improvement across the board as when you move here to here. And it's quite interesting because the SMSL uses a better DAC, right? It also has a built-in power supply that is supposed to have lower noise. And all these things kind of contribute to it having a better sound, I think. And what I do hear across the board for this as well is when you move over here, it's like another veil has just like lifted and you get even more resolution. You feel more like you're in that room with the recording studio as you move up this line, and things get a little bit more realistic, and that's what I kind of hear. The bass becomes a little bit more defined on the SSL, and even like vocalists, for male vocalists, female vocalists, they kind of pop out more too. They're kind of more present and more defined, and everything is honestly clear when you move up. And one of the biggest things I always notice too is that like when it comes to like treble detail, the more expensive top of line DACs are able to kind of refine and have more detail up in the treble region, and I think it just comes across more clear and more present. But of course, this thing is like $200 more expensive than this, and it's also a bigger form factor as well. So this is a much cheaper device, and it's also smaller, so it can fit on your desk better, right? And I think it's interesting when you kind of describe sound for like these topping SMSL devices, because if you look at like measurements and stuff, and you look at like what people call like SINAD, like this actually scores higher at like 120, and this is like 119. So technically, like on those like measurement scales, this it measures better and should sound better. But honestly, if you actually listen to these, this does not sound better than SMSL SU-9. So I think those type of measurements and kind of looking at it one-dimensionally isn't always the right thing. There's other factors that kind of go into sound quality that's just not like SINAD, but something I just want to note. So in conclusion, do I recommend the topping E50? I definitely do. I think the topping E50 really is a step up from kind of, if you're using just like an Apple dongle or something like your computer audio, or even a cheaper DAC. I think this is definitely a good DAC, especially when it's the small form factor with balanced in it for a price of $270. That's really, really good. And honestly, I cannot help but recommend this. It also has really cool features, and it could be used as like a preamp as well. And it even comes with a controller, so you kind of can control the volume stuff as well. So it has a lot of nice features packed inside. The only downside maybe is like it comes with the TRS port, because they needed a more smaller and more compact port to do balance. But you can find those cables not too expensive on Amazon and stuff. So yeah, I could definitely recommend this device. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below. It really helps my videos out. And stay tuned for more reviews. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.